everyone. Today we will discuss about the metabolism at different states of the body, part 2. Now in this video we will particularly discuss about the metabolic profile of important organs of the body. Now first of all, the metabolic profile of your brain. Now although the brain represents only 2% of the adult body weight, it utilizes about 10 to 20% of the cardiac output. Okay, about that is about 750 ml of blood circulates through the brain per minute, because the neurons cannot survive without the blood supply even for a few minutes. An occlusion of the blood supply to the brain can cause the unconsciousness within 10 seconds. Now there is no stored fuel in the brain like the other body parts of a body. The glucose is the basic requirement for the brain, okay, and should be continuously supplied to the brain. The glucose can freely enter the brain cells, okay, and the total consumption of the glucose by the brain is about 120 grams per day, that is about 480 kilocalories per day. So thus we can say that about 60% of the total carbohydrate intake by the body is metabolized by the brain itself. Moreover, about 25% of the oxygen consumed by the adult body is due to the brain glucose metabolism only. In children it is high, that is about 50%. Now first of all, what happens in your brain when there is anoxia? Now first of all, what is anoxia? Anoxia is basically there is very deficient or almost no amount of oxygen present in a particular tissue in your body, right? So what happens in your brain in the anoxia? Now first of all, you should know that in the anaerobic state in your body there is glycolysis pathway occurring, okay, and that will form the lactic acid. But what happens in your brain in the anoxia condition is that the brain actually preserved or is protected from this anoxic condition by the help of the Pasteur effect. Now what is Pasteur effect? Now it is actually the inhibition of the glycolysis by the oxygen, and that is known as the Pasteur effect. Now basically in simple words, whenever there is aerobic condition, or we can say there is oxygen available in your brain, there won't be any kind of glycolysis occurring. Remember, when there is oxygen in your brain, there is no glycolysis occurring in your brain, okay, and so if there is no glycolysis occurring in your brain, so there won't be any kind of production of the pyruvic acid, and if there won't be any kind of production of pyruvic acid, so in the anaerobic condition there won't be any kind of production of the lactic acid, okay. So that's why, because of this Pasteur effect, during aerobic condition there is no glycolysis, and so in the anaerobic condition there won't be any kind of lactic acid production in your brain, okay, and the blood glucose level below 30 mg per dl is fatal for your body. Now one more important thing is that your brain is unable to utilize fatty acid as a source of fuel, because the fatty acid complex are basically complex to the amino albumin, right, and the albumin is the basically transporting protein that transport the fatty acids, okay, but your brain is not able to absorb or is not able to take such heavy molecules, and that's why they are unable to transverse the blood brain, because they are not able to transverse the blood brain barrier, okay, and so they are not taken up by the brain. But the brain can effectively utilize the acetoacetic acid in the formed by the ketogenesis pathway. So this is again a very important survival technique in the diabetes and the starvation ketosis in the body. Now what happens in the brain when you starve or when there is starvation? During the starvation, a significant part, that means about 60 to 70% of the energy requirement of the brain is actually met up by the ketone body. I told you before in the previous video of, or the part 1 of this video, is that the brain uses only two materials, that is the glucose and the ketone bodies. So after glucose after when the glucose is no more in your body, ketone actually forms the basic requirement or fulfills the basic requirement of the fuel or the energy in your brain. So under condition of the what happens whenever there is starvation? So remember, ketone body actually used up by the brain. Now under the condition of the partial anoxia, what happens in your brain is that there is production of the ammonia basically increases in your brain, and this is immediately trapped as glutamine. Now the amino group of the glutamine and the glutamate can be used for the synthesis of the other amino acid, okay, and that amino acid can be used up to form the glucose, and that particular glucose is basically used up by the brain as an energy source. Now the metabolic profile of the skeletal muscle. Now the skeletal muscle, we all know, forms about the 45% of the total body weight of the body. About 0.5% of the muscle weight is due to the glycogen storage only. Now, following a meal or after a meal, the muscle glycogen content increases by about 1% of the total body Wait, now to understand the metabolism of the body at different time, we will divide them into basically 4 routes. That is after our meal, metabolism of muscle after our meal, after our exercise, after the starvation, and after the prolonged starvation. Now first of all, metabolism or the muscle metabolism after a meal. Now the uptake and the storage of the glucose by the skeletal muscle is under the influence of the insulin. For after a meal, the level of the glucose and the insulin are of course high, and that's why there will be anabolism occurring in your body, and so glycogen synthesis is enhanced. The resting muscle uses fatty acid as a major fuel for energy requirement, and that is about 85%. Now next is the muscle metabolism during exercise. Now muscle basically uses glycogen for short active spots of the activity. Now, the glycogen is actually rapidly by the Cori cycle. The glycogen basically actually broken down to form the lactate. Okay, glycogen, then glucose, then pyruvate, and then lactate. Now this lactic acid has to be transported to the liver to undergo gluconeogenesis pathway. Okay, that's why when you exercise in the beginning, you start feeling pain or cramps in your muscle, and that is because of the glycogen converting into the lactic acid in the beginning, and this lactic acid is actually causing pain or cramps to your body, and then this lactic acid basically transported to the liver to form the glucose and to perform the gluconeogenesis pathway. Now, however, the muscle uses fatty acid also as a source of fuel for aerobic exercise and long distance running. We talk about this further in this video only in detail, what happens in your body when you exercise. Now the muscle metabolism during the starvation. Now during the starvation, maximum glucose is spared for the brain. The free fatty acid is mobilized from the adipose tissue, and that is basically preferred for the muscles and other body tissues during the starvation time. Okay, so at that time glucose is basically for the brain and free fatty acid for the other tissues of the body, and by the help of the ketogenesis and other pathways, the body is actually gaining the fuel during the starvation process. And remember, the free fatty acid does not require insulin. Okay, and during the fasting condition, or we can say starving condition, the insulin level in the body is very low. Now finally, at the prolonged starvation, what happens is muscle proteins actually break down. Okay, and alanine is released into the bloodstream. I told you in my previous video of part 1 of this is that at the end, okay, whenever all your carbs and the lipids actually used up by the body, so after that the basic need of energy actually given up by the breaking down of the protein only. And when your body protein actually starts breaking and giving energy, at that time your body is actually in danger and is degrading and is destroying. So after prolonged starvation, the alanine actually is the basic substrate for the gluconeogenesis pathway, and then all this reaction occur. We discussed about this previously only. Now the metabolic profile or the metabolism profile of the liver. Now the liver actually, we all know, plays a very vital and the central role in metabolism by providing the adequate quantities of the metabolic fuel for other organs by the way of gluconeogenesis or glycolysis, etc. Now almost all the metabolic pathway operate in the liver except ketolysis. Remember, the liver cannot perform ketolysis. Now first of all, we will divide this into 2 main parts, that is the liver metabolism in the fed up condition and liver metabolism during the starvation. Now what happens in the fed up condition first of all? Now under well fed up condition, the liver takes up glucose. The liver takes up glucose, okay, from the circulation and stores it as glycogen. Okay, it basically stores it as the glycogen by the help of the glycogenesis pathway. Okay, now similarly the fatty acids. Now what about the fatty acid? The fatty acid are basically converted into the TAG or the triacylglycerol, okay, and is stored in the body as VLDL, okay, and they basically secreted into the bloodstreams, okay, and they are stored in the adipose tissue as VLDL. Now also the liver is a major site of degradation of the amino acid and detoxification of the ammonia into urea. Now what happens in the liver during the starvation or the fasting condition? Now during the starvation, the liver basically provides the glucose by the help of 2 main processes, that is the glycogenolysis and the gluconeogenesis pathway. Okay, first of all there will be glycogenolysis and then there will be gluconeogenesis pathway occurring in the liver. Right. Now, moreover, the liver also produces the ketone bodies also. It will also do the process of the ketogenesis and will form the ketone bodies. But the liver cannot use the ketone bodies formed by itself to it. Means the whatever the ketone bodies formed by the liver cannot be used by the liver itself. Okay. The liver also performs the beta oxidation of the fatty acids and converts the fats into smaller subunits and provides the energy. Now next is the metabolism profile of the cardiac muscles. Now in the heart basically consumes more energy than any other organ in the body, and it basically utilizes about 6 kg of ATP per day, that is about 20 to 30 times more of its own weight. The cardiac muscle derives its energy by the oxidative metabolism of the fatty acid about 60 to 90% and glucose about 10 to 40%. The ketone body are also normally metabolized in the cardiac muscle. Now, apart from this, also the energy transfer to the heart muscle is also by this CK, or we can say the creatinine kinase catalyze the energy shuttle of the basic energy requirement of the heart. Apart from this lipolysis and the ketogenesis, this is also one pathway of the energy source in the heart muscle. The energy transfer to the heart myofibrils occurs by the creatinine kinase catalyze energy shuttle. Now what happens in this mechanism? Now over here, first of all, this is the mitochondria and this is the sarcoplasm. Now in this cardiac heart, or we can say heart muscle, over here in the mitochondria, what happens is there is oxidative phosphorylation occurring, in which there is conversion of the ADP into ATP. Okay. Now this ATP is a very larger molecule size. Okay, this is a very larger molecule, right? And so it cannot be diffused into the myofibrils of the heart. Okay. So how to give the energy to the myofibril of the heart? So it is basically done by this process. Now what happens is the ATP gives its phosphate group to the this free creatinine and converts the free creatinine into phosphocreatinine. Okay. Now this phosphocreatinine, being a smaller molecule than the ATP, can easily diffuse into the myofibrils of the heart from the mitochondria. Right. Now the myofibril creatinine kinase over here. Now this CK of the myofibril actually catalyzes the reformation of the ATP, because this CK over here will take the phosphate group from this PCR and it will give to the ADP, and it will convert this ADP into ATP, and then again by the contraction the heart will use this ATP and will convert it again into the ADP, and then again this ADP converted into ATP by the CK by the PCR. Okay. Now the free creatinine over here which is formed then again diffuses back. The creatinine kinase system acts as an energy buffer over here because it actually keeps the ATP level constant in the heart muscles. Okay. Now next is the effect of exercise on metabolic profile. Now we have basically two types of exercises, if you know, that is the running exercise, okay, and the weightlifting exercise. Now the long distance running is the typically example of the aerobic exercise, whereas sprinting or the weightlifting is actually the example of an anaerobic exercise or anaerobic condition. Now during the anaerobic exercise, the major organ involved is the skeletal muscle with very little involvement of the other organs. The relative ischemia created by the compression of the blood vessel in the muscle will necessitate the use of glycogen and phosphocreatinine available in the muscle to supply the required energy. So basic requirement in the energy during anaerobic condition or the anaerobic exercise is the glycogen and the phosphocreatinine. Okay. Now what about the aerobic exercise? Now over here the respiratory quotient RQ value during the long distance running is very less, or the RQ level actually falls over here. Why? Because there is progressive change from the glycogenolysis to fatty acid oxidation to meet the energy demands. So that's why over here the RQ level is very low, because there is progressive change from the glycogenolysis to fatty acid oxidation, okay, to meet the energy requirement. Now muscle starts oxidizing fatty acid and the high AMP level. So let's look at this diagram over here. During the aerobic exercise, the muscle starts oxidizing fatty acid and the high AMP value or high AMP level which activates the AMP kinase, and because of this AMP kinase increment there is low malonyl CoA. Okay, and because of the low malonyl CoA I told you before, only because of the low malonyl CoA there will be increase in the beta oxidation of the fatty acid, because I told you before, only the malonyl CoA basically inhibits the beta oxidation of the fatty acid, right? So because of the increment or the activation of the AMP kinase, there will be decrement in the malonyl CoA in the body, and because of this there is activation of the CAT or the cardiac acyl transferase 1 in your body, okay, and this will actually initiate or will actually help in the beta oxidation of the fatty acid, right? Okay, now the training for the athletes is different depending on whether they are sprinters or long distance runners, since the energy sources of both of them are totally different. Because for the anaerobes, okay, there is using of the glucose and the phosphocreatinine, right? Where for the aerobes or the long distance runners, there is basically using of the this AMP kinase pathway and formation of the beta oxidation of fatty acids, okay, and the formation of the fatty acids, right? So that's why both the trainers are trained differently. Now rest after vigorous muscular activity often results in repletion of the exhausted glycogen stores. Now also in the muscle developed by the exercise and training, the size and the number of mitochondria are more, as well as the level of enzyme for fatty acid oxidation and ketone body utilization are also more. So hence the trained muscle can better utilize non-carbohydrate sources of energy. So exhaustion in those persons are basically delayed. Now metabolism profile of adipose tissue. Now we all know the adipose tissue is the basic storehouse of the energy in the body, and the energy is stored in the concentrated form, that is the TAG or triacylglycerol. Now suppose the energy is stored as carbohydrate, it will attract the water molecules and will need about 10 or 200 times more space than the human body. On the other hand, fat will exclude water molecules and therefore more energy could be stored within a small space. So that's why the body actually stores the basic energy of the fat as TAG. After about 25% of the glucose taken up by the adipose tissue is metabolized by the HMP shunt pathway, either this pathway or the glycolysis pathway. Now whatever the NADPH is basically generated from the HMP shunt pathway is basically used for the synthesis of the fatty acid. Remember, whatever the NADPH is formed by the HMP shunt is used up for the synthesis of the fatty acid, while whatever the NADH is basically formed, by this glycolysis pathway is basically used to reduce the DHAP or the dihydroxyacetone phosphate into glycerol 3-phosphate. Okay. Now also remember, during the fasting condition, the triglycerides in the adipose tissue are hydrolyzed, and the cyclic AMP mediated activation of the hormone sensitive lipase occur in response to the high glucagon insulin ratio. Okay, and so because the high glucagon insulin ratio, there will be catabolism occurring. Glucocorticoids also have a stimulant lipolytic effect during the fasting conditions. Now next is about the glucose utilization in the lungs. Now the lungs basically can oxidize glucose, fatty acids, amino acid, lactic acid and the glycerol. Now however, the glucose serves as a major substrate for the oxidation under the normal conditions, right? Now we have basically two pathways over here occurring in the lungs, that is the glucose transport in the lungs and the glucose metabolism in the lungs. Okay. Now first of all, the glucose transportation in the lungs. Now how the glucose is basically transported into the lungs? Now this is basically done by the transcellular transportation, which in most cell occurs by the carrier mediated facilitated transportation or diffusion, and also by the activated or the active transportation process. Now also the glucose metabolism in the lungs, how this basically occurs. Now in the lungs, the glucose metabolism basically occurs by the HMP shunt pathway and the glycolysis pathway. Now these both reaction actually produces the lactic acid and CO2 and also ATP. Now the HMP shunt pathway generates the NADPH, of course, for the reductive biosynthesis and detoxification reactions. About 50% of the glucose is metabolized to pyruvic acid by the glycolysis pathway. Now out of the total CO2 production occurring in the lung or the perfused lungs, approximately 1/4 of the CO2 is generated from the HMP shunt pathway, 1/4 from the pyruvate dehydrogenase reaction, and 1/2 or the half by the tricarboxylic acid cycle. Another major fate of glucose is for biosynthesis of the polysaccharides, proteins and the lipids. Now we'll discuss about the metabolic changes occurring during the pregnancy, lactation and the trauma in a further video. So I hope you understood well. Thank you so much.